Welcome to Western Technical College Business and Industry Services. This video, along with other training opportunities from Western BIS, are designed to help employees stay informed on the latest trends in today's changing workplace. To learn how Western can support your business, visit us at westerntc.edu/BIS.
So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to flip my camera around the other way so that you can see what we're looking at here. Western's Apprenticeship Center, we've had this building here over by Marcus Cinema for the last 6 years. We bought it as part of the Integrated Technology Center remodeling plan, and we moved some programs out while we built the AITC facility. And since then, we've stuck about $4 million into this particular facility just to make it specialized in the apprenticeship area. I can't actually go outside the building and show you the exterior because when I do that, I lose the Wi-Fi capability, so you'll lose my video. But the area that we're in right now is the student commons, the student break area. You can see it's actually a little bit scattered right now with the equipment and the furniture just because we're trying to keep social distancing in place. I did want to note that all the furniture in here was actually purchased by our student government. So it's about $40,000 worth of furniture, including the microwaves and the refrigerators, but just a nice common space for our students to actually sit back and enjoy. So in a moment here, I'm going to take you out through the different lab spaces and we'll talk about each program area as we're going. So the first one we're going to visit here today is the industrial electrician and then the industrial maintenance program. So this is Phil Reed's lab. Phil is our newest hire at Western in the apprenticeship area. And the first thing that we see when we walk in here is a state-of-the-art automated robotics line. So the way this system works right here is once we have it on and activated, I'd simply place my finger on here. It goes ahead and starts the process. You can see there's a light curtain on both sides here. So that allows us to know that it's safe to actually have the equipment operate. If I had my hand in here, for example, the light curtain would detect it. Nothing would happen until I removed it. So we have these discs that go through. There's a reader up here to sense that it's in place. It moves ahead to the robotic arm over there. There's a couple other sensors that read a barcode that's listed on here. It takes that, the robot moves it ahead on the conveyor system. It goes ahead and it kicks it out on this side here. So you might think, well, is that all it does? And really it's not. The biggest piece of this equipment is actually the control panel. And what we have with the control panel is the troubleshooting piece. So if we have the HMI lit up, the human machine interface, it actually has a rendering, a digital rendering of the entire manufacturing layout line. So as an instructor, I can set one of 40 different faults with a remote control. And what that does is it will kill the system, it'll create an error within it in some way, shape, or form. And the students actually have to open up the cabinet and troubleshoot what exactly is happening within there. Other parts from an equipment standpoint, you can see along the walls right here, we actually have 9 of these cabinets. These are being built by scratch from our students. That's why you see all the boxes and the components there. So as an industrial electrician student or an industrial maintenance student, you'll actually learn how to go ahead, open these boxes up, put all the electronic components in there, including the PLC and all the drives, and have that be fully functional. You can see overhead, there's a network tray. We have our own independent student network that we have in here, so students can play around with that without putting Western's network at risk. We get into the basic hydraulic troubleshooting. So we've got a couple of these units here that I'm walking by right now. On the back side of those, we have mechanical drives trainers. So this is where they work on, for example, with motors, work on alignment, getting those working, and that attaches to these conveyor systems that you see in front of you here. What you don't see and which is still on the way right now are 3 fluid power trainers. So students will get training within fluid power as well. So it's a very large lab space. There's a lot going on in here. Like I mentioned, everything's in process. So if I go over here, we can see where the students are starting the assembly of one of those cabinets. So we've have had employers in here recently that were thrilled with the expansion. They're very happy about the additional training and PLCs that we're offering students. And it's really been a great space already to be utilizing. One of the things we tried to do throughout the building is make it very visual. So you can see these boards. Here's the plumbing display board, but just to be able to convey to the average person, what are the different components called? How do they actually operate together? So what I'm going to do is take you down the main corridor of the facility right now. We have 4 different classrooms plus a computer lab. So the traditional classrooms are set up here. You can see the electrical benches. We have the power, single phase and 3-phase power. We also have air and data that's connected to each of these tables. So we can have up to 24 students, any one lab space at any one time. Once again, if I go back into the hallway here, we tried to once again make it visual and say, what are we offering at Western for apprenticeship? So we have welding or sheet metal apprenticeship, and most of that actually takes place down in Boston. We actually offer the maintenance technician or maintenance mechanic in millwright training. So you can see that's highlighted here as well. If we continue on down the line, we have our industrial electrician display. That's the room we just left. Here's a computer lab, doubles as a lecture classroom, but there's 24 capacity in here as well for students to do all their computer related work. Continuing on down the main hallway, and then we'll get into lab space. We have our plumbing lab, which is coming up on our left-hand side. We've invested in a lot of cutaway systems, and this is where students can actually dig inside and see how do the components, for instance, of a centrifugal pump work or a submersible pump. What does that look like? Same with valves. You know, what does a ball valve look like, for example? We have different other cutaways that we have available right here. We get down to our construction electrician room, which is very similar to the first classroom that you saw. In here, we have often up to 4 different groups of students. So you might have one classroom and you have students in 4 different classes at one time. So with apprenticeship, it's very customized, and it's a lot smaller numbers at one time that are actually being trained. At the end of the room here, we've added a 4th classroom at the end of the hall. You can see the electrical display board. And if I go into this particular space, just a traditional lecture room, but what we have on the back side of it here, if we look outside, it's kind of a unique thing where we built a sandbox is what we're referring to it. And this is an area that's still in process under construction right now, but this will remain sand like it is here. And the idea is that as a plumbing student, I can actually come out and I can run pipe, I can run it underground. As an electrician, I can set floor boxes, but this is an area they can literally dig, run their electrical, run their plumbing, and just have an area that they can practice that hands-on portion with. So now the exciting part is when I actually get you into the lab spaces. The first space we're going to look at is the residential electrical labs, followed by the commercial electrical labs. And what we've done is we've decided to build smaller buildings within the building. So we have 10-foot by 12-foot labs. Everything on my right, as you're looking at here, if it's the colored siding like this, the different colors, this is our electrical labs. These are residential. So everything is meant to mimic a residential service coming into your box. So you look all the way to the top, that would be the connection up here that would come into the mast at your house. And then the main panel off of that, the electrical meter from Excel, for example, would go in here. If we go inside here, immediately what like you'd find in your basement, for example. But you also have this white unit right here. And what that is it's photovoltaic and it's an inverter unit. So we're actually gonna have our students go ahead and install solar panels on each of these roofs. They'll run the electrical down to the inverter, back into the main panel of the building. We'll also have it be able to route to a battery containment system. So within this lab space here, it's actually one of those spaces that's gonna look more and more complete as time goes on. Right now, it's just a frame of a house. So our students will go ahead and put up the ceiling fans, for example. They'll wire in light switches, they'll wire in outlets, and they'll be able to change that every single year. So we have 6 of those buildings. You can see some more in front of us. If I come to the commercial side, that's what we have going on over on this side of the building right here. So in the commercial labs, anything you'd find on commercial construction. So we have the outside lights, for example. If I come inside, we have the sprinkler control systems. So there's the whole panel itself for it that you can see along the wall. So students will be learning how to program and how to wire that up. If I go over to the side here, we have 2 different size motors, 3-horse and a 5-horse motor. Students once again learn how to operate the motor controls and get those up and running. We can see we have the panels over here. We have the VFD, that actually the control system that runs all the electronic components, and the shut off next to that. And if I just kind of scroll around the building here, you can see the additional systems in place as well. Even the lights above my head will actually be installed by students. So 6 residential, 6 commercial labs that we have. And anything you're going to do in either setting, you're going to do within this facility here. As I walk around, what I'm trying to do here is take you back into kind of a hidden room, and it's our controls room. So within the building itself, we have a mechanical room that has all the electrical power that feeds the building. We've mimicked that exact same thing along the wall right here. So this is a system that students can actually play with and have hands-on as well without touching the main power to the building itself. What I'm going to show you here next is what we call a dirt wall system. It's DIRTT. And what this is prefabricated wall systems. So in construction today, we can actually have the capability of building walls or ordering walls that are completely prefabricated. They come with all the plumbing and all the electrical. So what this system here is a small unit that mimics pretty much anything that we can find in these prefab wall systems. So you can see the floor is actually cut out. It's acrylic panel, so we can see the electrical power running underneath it. So you might have a floor feed to a floor box, for example. Above my head, you can see the electrical connections coming in here. As far as an electrician goes on the site, they'll take the power to the building, run it into the J box, and then once that's done, this entire wall is now energized. So you can see the different types of power that we can have. We can order it as turnkey as the system on the left here, which is the plug and play that I showed you overhead, or we can just simply have a conduit running down that they can run wire through, or we can have no conduit that would just come down to an outlet right there too. So different levels that we can have. Medical gas is also included. So from a plumbing perspective, the med gas is in the wall already. All the connectors are there. And all we have to do from a plumbing side is bring the gas overhead and pipe it to that. And then the whole wall would be live with that gas. On the other side of it, once again, I mentioned from a plumbing standpoint, the walls are built where the sinks can just simply be hung. There's a metal chase right there that carries the weight of that particular sink. Over here, we have the toilet that's mounted directly to the wall. On the back side of that, we just have a carrier that attaches to the floor. So once again, just a different type of construction, but we want to make sure we can expose our students to the newest technology that is out there. One of my favorite lab spaces is the plumbing lab. So in the plumbing lab, we have a residential side and we have a commercial side. So here we're looking at a commercial kitchen with the 3-stage sink, obviously. We've got a grease interceptor. We've got the wash machine there for the dishes. As I go into the space, one thing you're going to notice is everything once again is exposed. So we put sheetrock very minimally where we needed it. And the reason for that is so that we could see inside the walls and we could see all the plumbing that's going to be attached to make things functional. So on the back side of this wall, this is the carrier system that holds the sink on the other side of it. The other piece that's unique to Western is if we look at the floor system, you might see it's got a grid pattern. It's different color. The reason for that is we excavated 3 feet down underneath the space, and this is a removable grid, so students can actually pull the grid up, access all the piping underneath. It's all backlit under there, so all the piping once again is exposed. So in this particular wall structure, you can see the different types of sinks, different types of toilets, floor mount, wall mount, same with the urinals themselves as well. On this side, we have some of the faucets you might see. We have another toilet system right here, and you can see, we can see right directly inside the actual plumbing chase. So we can see all the connections, the carriers there. You can see all the piping coming in, coming out. We did use PVC in here. We did use copper, and we even used PEX piping, PEX tubing. So we've got all different varieties to be able to expose students to. On the back side, we have more of your residential kitchen, residential dishwasher. We have a reverse osmosis system connected to the garbage disposal under here as well, or by the garbage disposal. We have a utility sink. And then we start to get into our different types of water treatment options. If I scroll even further, what you get to see is a whole wall of backflow preventer devices. So for training on backflow preventers, we have 9 different ones that are displayed here. And the water would simply come out of there, go to the trough, and exit below. So I'm just going to show you up above, just to show the amount of plumbing and piping that this space takes to get it operational. It's pretty much anything you would find within commercial construction in one place. On the residential side, if I go around the corner here, you can see we start to get into our hot water treatment systems or our water heaters. So everything from gas to electric to a combination with a heat pump right here, a point of use system right here. So those are all displayed. And then on this other side, we go into your traditional bathroom like you'd find in our homes. So we have our sinks, we have our toilet, we have our bath right there. Directly overhead, we've actually replicated all the piping that would take to run this facility or run this setup is not just in the floor, which makes it run obviously, but we've replicated it overhead so students can see that without having to get into that crawl space. If I go around to the next side, we have a larger room. What we've tried to do is capture more high-end technology where it's a little bit more complex. So if we go into our shower unit and I open this up, not only do we have the overhead, but we have the hand wand. We also have 3 different jets that are connected to this. So some might say, well, why have such a high-end shower, for example, in a facility like this? And the idea is when it comes to water balancing and trying to make sure that all those jets have the same amount of pressure, takes a little bit of work, takes a little bit more plumbing to make that happen. So we wanted to display this out here. If I come out of the plumbing area, you can see we've got additional tables, workbenches that we can work on. There's more of the residential side. Up on top is where all the solar is going to be at for the residential units. If I go into this lab right here, which once again, a lot of these are still in process yet. But if I go in and turn the light on here real quick, we can see we have a solar thermal setup. So we have the drain back tank and the reservoir. It goes up through, and if we go on the outside of this building, there's an actual solar panel that's mounted to the top of it. So from a green energy standpoint, we are training on that. I'm just going to show you that solar system real quickly. You can see the panel for it is right up overhead right here. Additionally then, we've got a reservoir here, a tank. So within here, we've got the different pumps to be able to take the water out. So from a plumbing side, this is one of the training tools. But this is really the large open area for the maintenance mechanics and the millwrights. So we have a mill, we have a lathe, sandblast cabinet, heat treat oven, we have a bender, we have an iron worker on the front side here, a couple drill presses. You can see the forklift plugged in. We have a couple of grinding booths for welding as well. So we do our welding down here. If I go into this space right here, our students actually built these. These are displays to be able to hold the grinding wheels and keep them organized, or the grinders. So within our welding side of the house, we have 18 different booths around this area right here. So we're using a mixture of Lincolns and a mixture of ESOBs. And this is where we do a lot of our customized training at. So we can do all of our welding processes within these booths, whether it's stick welding, MIG welding, TIG welding, doesn't matter. We can do it all within one common area. And then just heading back out here again, we've got kind of some storage area to keep it organized for the business and industry side of the house right over here. And then we've also invested in a couple new saws, a smaller Ellis, a very large Marvel. So the gantry of this will move forward and cut through the metal. We have an arbor press right there. We have a smaller press to do the weld test to get our bends. Then you can see just a couple other work tables in place. This particular line you're looking at here is a packaging line. This came to us from City Brew. This is one they had in their bottling line. So what it does is it takes a box, a flat pack box, ends up assembling that, and ends up coming out fully upright at the end that you can put the bottles in once they've got that completed. So we've got that system there. And then the other side of the overhead crane, we've got a second one with conveyor system that we'll have stood up and running. So everything has got a place here. It's all labeled. It's in its place. And really, it's just a state-of-the-art facility. When we were designing this, one of the things we did is not only did we look in the Wisconsin Technical College system, but we also looked throughout the world to figure out who's doing what and who's doing it the best. And some of the ideas we implemented here came to us from India, from the Indian Plumbing Association, and also from PCAC, which is a climate change organization focused on the trades and plumbing, and that's over in Australia. So once again, we tried to figure out who's doing what were the best concepts of everything, and then we basically built it into this structure here, which is available locally in La Crosse. So we definitely have a state-of-the-art facility, and we're more than thrilled to get this up and running here. In total, we have about 200 apprentices that we serve every single year in the various programs that we have.
Thank you for viewing this video from Western Technical College Business and Industry Services. Learn more about the hundreds of training and development opportunities available for your employees at westerntc.edu/BIS.